Hello, everyone. I'd like to begin by thanking the grace of heaven, virtues of masters, grand predecessor, transmitters, and all of you for giving me the chance to share the story of the little disciple resents or blames Holy Teacher, also known as the 18th Patriarch. So the story begins with the little disciple visiting Holy Teacher's home in heaven. And the little disciple is kneeling in front of Holy Teacher's lotus platform, and he's crying desperately. Looking around, the little disciple tries to describe Holy Teacher's home, and he says that it's so beautiful, majestic, and dignified. Its beauty is just utterly indescribable. He says Holy Teacher sits on a large lotus platform, and he wears these beautiful, luxurious satin gold monk robes. There are 2 rows of heavenly soldiers flanking Holy Teacher's sides. There are many angels near Holy Teacher, and there's a tranquil and lovely garden surrounding them. Millions of people burn incense and give off food offerings and bow in respect for Holy Teacher. And after seeing all of this, the little disciple can't help but compare Holy Teacher's home to his own home. The little disciple lives in a tiny temple that is dedicated to him. But in the summer and springs, it always floods and it scares him because there's so much water. On the days it doesn't flood, it gets so hot it makes him sweat. And during hurricane season, the little disciple gets drenched by the rain because of the leaky roof on his temple. And in the winter, a beggar, or you could say homeless person, found shelter in the little disciple's temple, but the beggar started a fire with wet grass to cook and ended up smoking up the entire temple. It's so smoky that it makes the little disciple's eyes tear up so bad that he can't take it and ends up having to stand outside of his own temple. Meanwhile, Holy Teacher's temple is always smoky too, but it's because of all the visitors who come to burn incense for Holy Teacher. Eventually, the beggar starved and died in the little disciple's temple, but it took many, many months before the body was even found because his little temple gets no visitors. So we can imagine how this makes his temple smell so dirty and smell so bad, right? It's so bad that the little disciple cannot even bear to stand inside or even right outside the door of his own temple. Holy Teacher has 2 rows of soldiers and many angels that accompany him, and the little disciple does have 1 angel to accompany him, but they don't even get along. And while the Holy Teacher wears majestic gold robes, the little disciple wears broken slippers, old rat robes, and a ripped rag on his head. The little disciple complains about how his position is so low and blames Holy Teacher for not warning him. The little disciple says Holy Teacher was always too easy on him, always spoiled him with kind words. If Holy Teacher had been stricter and harsher with him, maybe the little disciple would have taken it more seriously and cultivated better. Little disciple blames Holy Teacher for not convincing him to do better. So Holy Teacher hears all of the little disciple's complaints and laughs dryly. Holy Teacher says, "I told you, do not get hot-tempered," but the little disciple just replied, "That's just my character." "I told you to go out and propagate, but you said it's too far and it's too difficult." "I told you to host your own temple and that it's a direct bridge to heaven. But you said my home is too small. I have no money and life is too difficult." Holy Teacher said, "I told you to donate more." And the little disciple said, "That's just tricking people into parting with their money." "I told you that earth is not forever, but you said, my kids are too young and I'll cultivate later." Holy Teacher said, "I told you to respect the Tao members." And the little disciple had responded, "I don't have time to get to know them." Teacher also said, "I told you not to eat meat, but you said if I don't eat the delicious meat, my mouth cannot survive." I told you to hurry and to not be lazy. But little disciple's reply was, I'm too dumb and can't cultivate too quickly. I told you that money and temple's things are to be treated with propriety, and you said it's not necessary to be so strict. Holy teacher said, I warned you to follow regulations, and you said the regulations are too strict and it scares people away. I told you to do more bows and spread regulations to others, but little disciple's reply was, I'm always too sleepy and tired. I told you to follow the temple's rules, and you responded, who can follow them so perfectly? The holy teacher said, I told you to speak less, but the little disciple just ignored it and kept talking. To follow good leaders and good examples, and you said, oh, but it's easier to just blend in with ordinary people and maybe party and gamble with them. Holy teacher said, I told you to finish one task and then go elsewhere and do more. Instead, you said, but the temple is comfortable, so why not just stay a few more days? There's always more time. Holy teacher said, I told you not to take temple money home, and you said it's just borrowing. The holy teacher tells the little disciple that he was too careless and always disregarded temple's regulations. He tells the little disciple that he was too lazy. Holy teacher always warned him, but he always said that it was nagging. And the little disciple constantly said, there's always plenty of time and I'll just do it later. So holy teacher says to the little disciple, you blame holy teacher, but who is really to blame? Holy teacher tells him it's too late to regret now. Whenever you encountered hardships, the little disciple always hid and stepped backwards. And now you want to complain and be side by side with the Buddhas and have a big lotus platform like them, and you want soldiers to keep you company. But have you ever considered how many hardships and obstacles holy teacher had to encounter to get to this high position? The holy teacher tells the little disciple that holy teacher had to endure rain and storms. Holy teacher froze and starved to help the Tao mission. And there were many people who were out to get him and torture him for helping the Tao. There were some nights where holy teacher did not sleep at all because he was too busy spreading the Tao. He had to suffer many criticisms and negativity at temple, and he even spent all his money and time to help the temple. He even left home and his parents in order to do so, and was not able to be filial to his parents the way he wanted. Holy teacher tells him that he made many sacrifices and faced so many hardships, but never once did he resent the Tao or the temple. He never once relaxed or slowed down in helping others. So holy teacher shares some words of wisdom for those serious about cultivating. First, always follow and respect temple regulations carefully. If we're careless, it's easy to lose merits that we worked really hard to earn. Next, be consistently and continuously sincere day and night. Even when we're alone, Buddhas know what's in our hearts and our minds. Holy teacher says, do not be stingy with donations to temple and never cheat the Buddhas. So it's not just talking about money donations, but also our time and our effort. We should be generous any way we can, and don't be stingy when it comes to, donating our efforts. Holy teacher tells us, listen carefully to Tao teachings and practice what we learn. We must not interrupt others who are teaching about the Tao. And if we take shortcuts, we waste our potential and the opportunity. We'll fall short of what we could have achieved and where we could have been. The little disciple had the opportunity to cultivate and gain a high position, but he threw it away and wasted his opportunity. So if we do the same as the little disciple, we'll actually have nobody to blame but ourselves. Holy Teacher says to be a good disciple, we must be pure of heart. We should have good manners and always respect regulations and propriety. We should not have motives, and we should let heaven plan our paths. For example, we shouldn't aspire to become a lecturer or transmitter. We don't want to have this attachment to titles, right? So instead, we should trust heaven to help pave our paths and guide us along. However, if an opportunity arises at Temple, we shouldn't hesitate to help Temple any way we can. Always have faith that Buddhas are paving the best path for each of us. And at the same time, we need to be willing to do our part and actually walk the path ourselves. Holy Teacher says a good disciple never gets tired of spreading and speaking about the Tao. He also tells us we should treat everybody equally, no matter how rich or poor somebody is. So we shouldn't have differentiating heart of like you versus I, right? CEOs and beggars cultivate the same exact way. So all Buddha natures are the same, just like how the sun doesn't shine more or less on any one person. Buddha natures of presidents, ordinary people, beggars, animals, and Buddhas are all equal. Holy Teacher tells us we must cultivate ourselves and help others to cultivate too. We should stay away from evils and maintain the path of the truth. Holy Teacher says we should self-reflect often. Try to self-reflect on our behaviors at the end of every single day if we can. We should think to ourselves, what can I have done better today and vow to do better tomorrow? Buddhas are always next to us and always watching and recording us. So they note our errors and they never overlook even the tiniest merit that we earn. Buddhas tell us that they are always nervous and scared that we might fall or make mistakes, but that they're always by our sides cheering us on and trying to help us. Holy Teacher also tells us that we should study Tao books more often and maintain pure and strong virtues. If we can have strong virtues, heaven rewards us with limitless merits. And if we suffer hardships on earth but are relentless and persistent in cultivating, heaven will give us something called a red book, which is like a ticket straight to heaven. So would we all like one of these tickets? If we do, then we must follow Holy Teacher's advice and guidance no matter what. They've given us all the tools that we need to succeed. It's just up to us to use those tools properly. Holy Teacher says if we do all of these things he's telling us to do, we can become good leaders and others will naturally follow and respect us. And that's not to say, we should ask for respect or followers, but by naturally leading with our Buddha natures and our virtues, others will gravitate to those characteristics and want to be near us. Holy Teacher tells us that cultivating is both easy and difficult, but it depends on ourselves, not on heaven. Heaven cannot force us to cultivate. And one of my favorite lines from a temple song that Holy Teacher wrote, it says basically that Buddhas are holding our hands and guiding us, but one day they have to let go of our hands because we must walk this path alone. We come into this world alone and must leave alone, and we can't bring anyone or anything with us. Holy Teacher tells us that we must accumulate merits while we can before it's too late. If we do not have merits and virtues, then evils and bad karma may block us from cultivating. We must do more while we can because we don't know what is lurking, waiting for us to slip up so they can get their payback. And who knows what we've done in this life, let alone what wrongs we might have done in our past lives. That's why it's so important that we do whatever we can while we have this current opportunity and time to build up our merits. And again, it's not just about donations of money, if we're able, but also giving our time, our effort, and our sincerity. So like $1 from a beggar means more to heaven than $1,000 from a millionaire. But it just means we should do whatever we can to help and show our sincerity. And that could be donating or sweeping at temple, maybe speaking about the Tao and sharing what we know with others. Everything we do will help us accumulate merits naturally. After listening to Holy Teacher say all of this, the little disciple realizes his mistakes and that he only has himself to blame for the situation. He says he regrets not sweeping at temple because now his karma is to have a beggar dirtying his temple. He says he regrets not wiping the tables at temple when he was alive because now a dirty cowkeeper child always puts his feet up on the little disciple's lotus platform statue in his temple now. He regrets not following proprieties because now a beggar cooks and smokes up his temple. The little disciple says he regrets not cleaning properly or burning incense when he was alive because now nobody burns and offers incense for him. So we can see the cause and effect principle clearly in this story. Everything that happens to the little disciple are consequences of his own actions. He says he regrets not cleansing his hands when going to temple because now his karma is to have kids play with his statue with dirty hands. He regrets loving his money too much and not donating because now nobody donates or offers fruits for his temple. He regrets wearing dirty clothes to bow at temple because similarly now, his temple's worn down and has a leaky roof. He regrets not greeting and sending off Holy Teacher or the 18th Patriarch when he visited because now he's all alone and has no visitors. The little disciple says he spent so much time making money for his own kids when he should have spent more time helping the temple. And I mean, how often do we hear people say this now? That they'll cultivate when they retire or when their kids are older? The truth is we know, we already know the truth of the universe, which is who knows if we'll even make it to retirement. And one of my coworkers who used to work next door to me, she retired in January 2021 after working for 20 years. And I remember how excited she was to retire. And she had lots of plans to travel and spend time with her family. But within a month of retiring, she found out she had stage 4 cancer and passed away later that year. When I was a senior in college, I knew this girl who was 2 years younger than me. And she was walking on the sidewalk after class one day when this driver with a heart condition lost control of his pickup truck and ran her over on the sidewalk. And she passed away before she even got to graduate college. And I'm sure we all know similar stories of people with, very similar things that happen unexpectedly. So we should let these personal stories be a reminder to us that tomorrow is not a guarantee for any of us. It doesn't matter how young or healthy we think we are. We never know how much time we have left on this earth. We have to cherish every single moment and grasp every opportunity to do what we can to accumulate merits and not have any regrets when we leave this world. The little disciple says he ended up with countless money that he couldn't take with him after he passed, and now he suffers the consequences of his actions. The little disciple says he regrets liking Earth so much that he became too attached to the physical world. He never bothered to create affinity with Buddhas. And when I hear that, I think about how lucky we are that some of us were able to see Buddhas channeled during special temple events. And if we don't get a chance to physically see the Buddhas, we still have opportunities to build affinity with the Buddhas every time we go to temple, attend Dharma classes, or listen to class, or read scriptures. The little disciple tells us he earned very few merits, and he only earned a tiny, rundown temple in his name. He regrets his arrogance and not cultivating himself seriously, and he feels 1,000 years of shame. So the little disciple warns us to not waste this opportunity. He says he was very good at making money when he was on earth, but should have spent more time and more effort planning to gain merits, to reduce his bad karma, and gain a higher position in heaven. And all of us are very fortunate to be able to walk the same path that all these Buddhas and Tao members who came before us. So we should take advantage by learning from all their experiences and wisdom. We should remind ourselves often that every time an opportunity comes up for us to help somebody or help the temple, it's an opportunity for us to accumulate some merits and create good affinity with heaven. Not everyone is as fortunate as we all are to be able to have this chance, so we shouldn't waste it. The little disciple pleads for all of us to learn from his mistakes and regrets. He urges us to earn a lot of merits while we have the chance so that we are able to one day exchange it for a high position in heaven. The little disciple says it's very affordable to gain a high position. It only takes one lifetime of sincere cultivation, and then we can enjoy the fruits of our labor for thousands of years. So if, let's say, one lifetime of good merits translates to about 10,800 years in heaven. So if we do some simple math, we can say that like an average lifetime is 100 years, which we know is definitely overestimating. But that means we can spend about 108 lifetimes in heaven. And to me, that sounds very worthwhile. We just have to be willing to work hard and sincerely in this lifetime. What we have to do is learn, observe, and follow the paths of Buddhas who have already paved the way for us. Buddhas are so kind, compassionate, generous, and they're always helping others before themselves and are so selfless. They move heaven and earth with their sincere and pure hearts, and Buddhas are always dignified and justified. If we can be like that and behave the same way with the same heart, then one day we may earn a spot side by side, shoulder to shoulder with the Buddhas. The question becomes, do we want that or not? And if we wish to be with the Buddhas, we have to be willing to put in the work. We can't expect to gain something in exchange for nothing, right? So we just have to be willing to have that sincere effort. At the end of the story, the little disciple is still kneeling in front of Holy Teacher crying, but now he's crying because he realizes how blind he's been. He begs and pleads with Holy Teacher for another chance to be reborn on earth and to try again. But Holy Teacher tells the little disciple how Holy Teacher worries that he'll just make the same mistakes and forget. The little disciple promises that this time will be different. He promises to make big vows and fulfill it to surpass even the Buddhas. He tells Holy Teacher that he wishes to return to permanent heaven and to never leave. He wishes to follow Holy Teacher's footsteps so they can reunion forever together. So to conclude, here are some of the main takeaways. Each of us is a little disciple of Holy Teacher, and that's kind of why I like this story so much, because it's very easy to relate to. What I learned from the little disciple story is that it wasn't necessarily any really big mistakes he made, but rather he made many little mistakes. That's something I think about a lot. It's that we have no idea how many little things we may have done poorly each day, and it's very easy to make the same mistakes as a little disciple without even realizing we're losing our hard-earned merits. It's also really easy to make excuses, and it's pretty standard for humans to complain a lot or compare what we have to others and want more. That's what I think is great about these weekly Tao classes, is that they help me learn to cultivate better and remind me of what's truly important. Sometimes we hear about people who come to temple for a specific reason. Maybe they lost a loved one, or they want to help their child somehow. It could be any reason. But after some time, or things settle down, or their sick family member is suddenly better, Maybe they forget to be grateful or don't realize it was the Buddhas who helped reduce their bad karma, and they just go back to their daily lives without thinking about it again. So we should often remember heaven's grace and kindness. Buddhas are always working hard behind the scenes, turning our big karmas into smaller karmas. We just may not be able to see it. It's also important to keep reminding ourselves that this is all temporary. Earth is temporary, therefore we shouldn't get too attached to this physical world. And some people hear that and think, oh, I shouldn't get too attached to my family or my kids, but rather we should make sure we cherish the short, limited time we have with them and understand that one day we will each have to leave this world by ourselves. So just like the song I mentioned, Buddhas can hold our hands and guide us, but in the end, each of us must walk this path by ourselves. Being wealthy in merits is worth more than being wealthy in earth money. And of course, it's still important to make money for us to live and to take care of our families. But we want to take the middle path and not become obsessed one way or the other. We can't take any of our paychecks or savings accounts or even our families with us when we leave this world. So we don't want to become short-sighted, and we just want to do our best to see the truth and remember the bigger picture. We don't want to be like the little disciple demanding another chance from Holy Teacher because we threw away this opportunity we have right now in this life. Another main takeaway is that we should always trust heaven to plan our paths and to guide us. But we should also seize any opportunities that Buddhas send our way. And yes, we should always remain humble and pass opportunities along to others too. But if we get a chance to contribute some way or another, we shouldn't waste that chance. For example, if we're asked to share experiences in class or get a chance to talk about Tao to somebody, we should quickly embrace the chance and just do it. And for example, I personally am not a fan of public speaking and get very nervous talking in front of others. But I remind myself that I have this opportunity and responsibility to spread the Tao, so I just try my best and hope that Buddhas will help me. Back in 2015, my mom, lecturer Xu, she wanted to explain this little disciple story to me line by line, which is in Chinese. And my Chinese is not the best, and her English is also not her first language. So obviously you can imagine how challenging and sometimes frustrating it was, and how many times I wanted to quit and give up back then. I mean, there were 2 language barriers, and I'm sure some of the details of the story might have been lost in translation, which I do apologize for. But basically, long story short, the experience of listening and translating the story back then, in retrospect, really showed me how I could be very impatient and short-tempered, and how that was something that I really needed to work on. But it also showed me how patient and loving parents can be with their kids, no matter how annoying or frustrating their kids might be. And I'm lucky because my parents always try to share good things with me and try to teach me. Despite all my stubbornness and impatience back then, finishing translating the story was very rewarding because I learned so much from my parents and the little disciple, and I'm happy I get a chance to share it with you all. So since 2015, it's been about 7 years since then, and now I willingly asked my mom to spend time to explain details to me when I didn't want to listen back then. This made me realize that changing our bad habits is not something that happens overnight. It takes time and effort and lots of practice to recognize our own flaws. So, it takes time to self-reflect, and we have to actively work on improving ourselves if we wish to do better. We also need to be patient with ourselves and give ourselves some grace. This also means we need to extend that same patience and grace to others. We never know what others are going through, so we should show them kindness and offer our help when we can. Similarly, we cannot expect others to know what we are going through, and that means sometimes we'll encounter people who don't have the same grace and kindness for us, and that's okay. We can't control how others treat us or how they behave, but we can control ourselves and our reactions. So the more difficulties we encounter, the more time we should spend cultivating ourselves, self-reflecting, reading scriptures, attending more Tao classes, and do things that help us improve our daily lives. Slowly, we'll actually see our fates improve. Also, those difficulties we encounter could also be Buddhas using those situations to turn our big karmas into little karmas. So we should try not to be angry when we encounter hardships, and we should try to view them with a grateful heart. My last takeaway in this class is, if we're able to give and help those in need, heaven will see it and be moved by our heart and our kindness. If we're not able to give financially, then we should give more compliments, smiles, and encouraging words to others. That doesn't cost us anything. In this current world filled with calamities and negative news, our kind words could truly make a positive impact for someone who really needs it. I also wanted to share this scripture with everyone. Buddha's wisdom in these scriptures can be very helpful, so we should try to read scriptures whenever we're able to, and every day if possible, at least an hour, to help us on our journey of cultivation. So this scripture was from Holy Teacher back in 2016. And Holy Teacher says, in cultivating the heavenly Tao, we must be able to control our thoughts. To become saints and sages, we must cultivate ourselves resolutely. So in one day, we have thousands of thoughts that can fly through our minds. So we need to learn and practice to let go of those thoughts. As cultivators of the Tao, we have to be firm in our beliefs and know that Tao is the truth and we're on the path directly back to heaven. Then Holy Teacher says, after how many times of reincarnation, and now we get to be in this human world. This is such a hard to come by opportunity, and we should not waste our lives. Make sure we do not let ourselves have any regrets. So who knows how many times we've reincarnated into this physical world, and when we reincarnate, who knows if we reincarnated into an animal or a human? But this life, we're fortunate to be humans, so we should not waste this opportunity. We do not want to have any regrets, just like the little disciple. We don't want to be begging for another chance. Holy Teacher says, make sure our true self does not get lost in its environment. So this basically means don't let our Buddha nature get lost in this false world, meaning don't follow bad influences and don't let our 5 physical senses lead us astray. So for example, like lust, drugs, or becoming obsessed with following stocks, etc., making money. We want to avoid things that have no benefit to our Buddha nature and building our virtues. That's the most important. So Holy Teacher says, make sure we are not disheartened because of setbacks. Make sure we do not become a puppet to wealth, material things, sentiments, and desires. It just means that we shouldn't become obsessed with these false attachments in this physical world. Holy Teacher says life is short with time rushing us forward. Some words and advice must be etched into our hearts. So we know that in this world, our time on this earth is very limited, and so we don't want to waste any of it. And there's so much wisdom from the Buddhas that we have to remember in our hearts. Holy Teacher says we must face life lessons bravely, and we must diligently bring about life's meaning. So we decide what is the purpose of our lives. For example, Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, made so much money, but regretted it on his deathbed. Because we can't take any of that with us when we die, when we leave this world. And Buddhists always emphasize, as long as we have enough money and food to eat, a house to live in, that's enough. We just need enough to be comfortable. So we should spend more time and effort cultivating and helping others instead of building our wealth and becoming obsessed with those things, because we can't take any of that with us when we leave this world. Holy Teacher says there's no need to haggle over who is right and who is wrong. Just demand of ourselves to have a clear conscience. So it basically means We don't need to worry about who's right or who's wrong in an argument. We just want to make sure everything we do is with a clear conscience, meaning is it in line with our Buddha nature? As long as we are following our Buddha nature, then nothing else matters and we don't need to argue with others. Then Holy Teacher says, remember to be cautious in private. So even when we're alone and nobody is around us, God and many Buddhas are always watching each of us. So don't think we can just get away with doing bad things. And maybe even if we don't get caught right away, but when we pass away and report back to heaven, they'll play a recording of us from every time we did something bad, and we will have to pay it back, right? So even though we think we got away with something, we still have a debt to pay back. The next line, a noble person has virtues and is not afraid to be taken advantage of. So for example, Immortal Lui, he's one of the law enforcer Buddhas of heaven, and when he was alive, a beggar had begged him for money, and Immortal Lui gave him some money, but the beggar said, "You give me too little," and just yelled at Immortal Lui. If it was us, how would we react to that? But Immortal Lui just politely said sorry to the beggar over and over. Would we be able to react the same way as Immortal Lui? So if we want to be like the Buddhas, we have to learn from them and follow their example. Holy Teacher says, do not forget to diligently follow the examples of the Buddhas. So for example, we know all the Buddhas are vegan, so we should try to practice cutting back on eating meat to reduce our bad karma and create good affinity with these animals. And the Buddhas are very fair. They don't ask us to give up meat right away, but maybe we can start with once a month or once a week and slowly cut back to help reduce that bad affinity with those animals. And if we want to become like the Buddhas, we have to try to do as they do. As long as you are firm and do not retreat, meaning we have to be firm in our Dao cultivation path and do not retreat or give up for any reason, right? So we want to be steadfast and diligently cultivate no matter what hardships come our way. Make good use of heaven's wisdom bestowed upon you, and you are sure to shine brightly. So Buddhas have given us so much wisdom in their scriptures that we can learn from and apply to our daily lives. If we follow what Buddhas have taught us and we do what we can to help others in any way, for example, like bringing people to receive the Tao blessing, then our glowing aura will get bigger and bigger and will shine brightly. So lastly, let's make sure we don't waste this current opportunity we have in this lifetime, just like in the little disciple story, and make sure we listen to all the guidance from the Buddhas and actually follow through with it. Thank you all for listening. I wish you all good health and happiness on your path of cultivation. And if I said anything wrong, I ask for heaven's forgiveness and for transmitters and lecturers to please guide me. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine, for the class. We still have 20 minutes. So for remaining time, please let us know your thoughts about this class. Transmitter Ray, you go first.
Hello, everyone. Basically, yes, I've listened to Christine's class, and it's very good. After all, it does sort of like try to remind ourselves that we should at least make the best of the opportunity that we have to live, hopefully, in a life of cultivation, to at least to improve ourselves in Tao, and also to know about the Tao. And so therefore, we can at least hopefully return back to the what's called the absolute heaven. In terms of like the little disciple scriptures, yes, of course, we are or I am reminded of, many things that, or I would say maybe even little mistakes, but also, some big mistakes that I've made in my life. And so therefore it's something that I need to reflect upon, and also to try to eventually restore that the regrets that I had, so to speak. Well, I guess I'll call it regrets that I did have before. And so therefore, hopefully, I will be able to try to acquire some wisdom and merits to be able to offset any of that that I had done in the past. I think the last thing that I got was from the fact that, yes, she mentioned about the song that she says, yes, Buddha can hold our hand, but then eventually we have to travel ourselves on this path. So therefore, just as when we are holding hands or have children or when we are children, yes, we should hold the hands of our parents. And so therefore our parents will try to guide us. But eventually, once we grow up, then of course, we have to do the journey ourselves. And so therefore, yes, I hope that each one of us can at least find something with this little disciples and disciple story, and then reflect upon ourselves to find out whether some things that we should try to improve, we should try to do. Well, I guess that's my reflection. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for Transmitter Ray for sharing your thoughts. Anyone else who would like to share?
I thought it was a nice way that she described all those little mistakes, that we make, and a good reminder to be more mindful and pay attention to those mistakes, and just everything that you do throughout your day. So I think that was a nice story she told, and how those things really add up. And it made me reflect on just small little things throughout the years that I thought I actually let go of, but some of those things came back up as she was talking. So I'll have to do some bows and think about that a little bit more. So I appreciate the talk.
Thank you, Verena. That's nice. Lecture Ty.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I mean, obviously the little disciple, or this story does point out a lot of little things that we need to be mindful of, right? Cultivation, we cannot be, if we are not mindful, if we are not aware of what we're doing, what we're saying, whether we're creating karma or all these things. The only thing we'll take with us when we leave this world is our regrets. Okay, so yeah, we it's important to self-reflect. That is, you can say, one of the foundations of cultivation is self-reflection, repentance. Okay, and also being grateful, right? So without those, we cannot succeed in cultivation. We'll just end up with having lots of regrets and hope. Once we, the thing is, once we leave this world, then everything becomes clear to us, or is made clear to us. Oh, all these mistakes, all these things that we did that we shouldn't have done, or maybe we should have done that we didn't do. But then, that's why we call it regrets, because it's too late, right? We don't have this human body anymore. So this human life. Therefore, we have to be aware. We have to be self-reflect all the time. We tend to accuse other people, blame other people for all the things that are wrong or happen to us. But, cultivation is the Tao. It is about finding yourself, finding your true self. Right? It's not outside. It has nothing to do with the outside world. Okay, so if we're not aware, then the next best thing, I guess, is or we're not able to self-reflect, or we don't self-reflect, the next best thing is to have other people remind us, point it out to us, and hopefully we can accept it, and then we reflect on ourselves. And if that doesn't work, then I don't know, then it's very tough, very difficult to succeed, to achieve, in the end. So that's, I think, a very important, a key. Yeah, it's really the foundation. I mean, to cultivation. I mean, we can't do that. The self-awareness, the self-reflection. We cannot succeed. I mean, so that's, everyone has to keep that in mind. So yeah, be mindful. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Lecture Tai. And I think it's very important to have your someone close to you to remind us to self-reflect, and maybe your other half or your best friends.
Yeah, sometimes when they're close, though, it's hard. They don't, they may not, accept it. So sometimes you need a lot of people to point it out, to remind us, so everyone's different.
Okay, thank you, Lecture Tai. Anyone else? We don't do much of the sharing at the end of the class, so this is a very good chance to share our thoughts.
I just have a short comment to share with everybody else. I think the little disciple likes one of us. The little disciple always find excuses when he was alive, not to cultivate or propagate down, to accumulate enough merits or virtues. He or she has a lot of excuses. But we need to learn from the mistake the little disciple made. We don't want to make the same mistake. So let's all of us hold our hand together, side by side, to cultivate, propagate doubt together. So make sure we have enough merits and virtue to go back to absolute heaven together. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Lin.
Yeah, actually, that reminded me. I meant to say something about the excuses also. We like Chancellor Lin says, we all make excuses. People tend to make excuses, and we have to rise above that. Right? We have to rise above. I mean, it's easy to make an excuse for not doing something, for not cultivating, but we have to rise above it if we expect to become a Buddha, become enlightened. That's we have to rise above that. No more excuses, really. No more excuses. We just have to force ourselves. Force ourselves to elevate, right? To push ourselves upward and improve ourselves. No one can really do that for us. We have to do it ourselves. So having the will, right? The resolve to do it. That is very important. Okay, so we don't want to have these little things kind of get in the way of our success in cultivation. Right? Then it is kind of you can say it's a waste, or I mean it's very it'd be sad at the end if we didn't succeed because of these excuses. So yeah, rise above it.
Thank you, Lecture Tai.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. So I'm going to use what Master Rong always say. I'm going to say in her behalf. She say cultivation is easy at this white era, the universal salvation. Just hold on to the escalator all the way to the top. Don't exit out. Think about cultivation like an elevator, and we have to go through the 101 floor. Just don't exit out. Follow the path, and we'll be home free. There's a lot of temptation where we live in the earth. There's a problems in the family. There's a situations that happen, but we have three treasures. And heaven, we ground our wishes come true. if going back to absolute heaven is your choice. They're going to help us. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Jessica. I think that's very powerful words. Yeah, don't be sidetracked. Okay. I should need to remind myself that. All right. Anyone else? Oh, Lecture Kai.
There's just a couple things that came to mind about this story. You can say this little disciple is, you can say it's a metaphor symbol for, those of us who, who obviously who are cultivators of the Tao. Obviously, that's why it's a little disciple. But who are struggling. You can say we are struggling. We're not consistent. We make excuses. We procrastinate, et cetera, right? Okay, so it serves as a reminder, that we we should we don't want to. I mean, we don't want to be like the little disciple. Okay, we want to be a big disciple, we're a great disciple. But anyway, so there's a couple things. So number one, little details matter. I mean, little details. So we start with the little things first. Little things, our little idiosyncrasies, maybe bad habits, et cetera, all that little things first. Okay. And then we can gradually work our way, okay, up to the bigger things. And also another thought is that, cultivation is a lifelong process, right? It's not, oh, I'll, wait till I get a great job, wait till I'm married, wait till I, whatever, wait till I become rich, wait till my, my children are married and settled, so then I can then devote my time, all my effort or concentrate on cultivation. That could be too late because, right? We have no guarantee, right? How long we're going to be in this world, right? Today, we're very, we feel healthy, strong, comfortable, rich, whatever, satisfied. But tomorrow we may not wake up, right? So seize the moment, seize the day, right? That's another reminder. Yeah, okay. And also, so we should not put off, we should not procrastinate, right? A minute lost is a minute lost. You can never get it back. A day lost is a day lost forever. You can never get it back. A year lost is a year lost. We can never get it back, right? So it's seize the day, seize the moment, Now, the thing is, how can we motivate ourselves to continue, on this path, right? To continue to cultivate day in, day out. But it's in daily living, okay? It's in how we interact, how we view, how we think, what we think, what we say, what we do in our daily lives, how we interact with our family, our parents, our siblings, our friends, our coworkers, our neighbors, and other people in society. Okay, so, but we start small. You start small, one step at a time. That's okay. That's okay. The key is we have to be consistent. And now, how do you maintain that consistency and not wander, right? Wander off or be, let's say, tempted or distracted by so many, material things in this world, right? One way is like what we're doing is, you attend classes on a regular basis. That's why, we stress a lot of the, elder Tao cultivators always say that, and holy teacher said the same thing, we should always be in contact with the temple, or in other words, the saying is that we should, go to the temple regularly. That's one way of maintaining that constancy, that consistency in that, lifelong journey of cultivation. All right. And it's important to, right. And we learn, and we learn new things, from not just from classes, but, from words or or ideas, given or spoken by, other DAO members, and this DAO community, etc. And also another way is to participate more in the DAO community activities or affairs. Okay, so that's another way. To get. So that's why it's very important not to leave. I say leave. Yeah, leave the DAO temple, or the DAO community. And be by yourself. Then that would be difficult. Because our life journey is not. I can say pretty for certainty, no one can guarantee that their life journey will be smooth, will be always smooth sailing. That's almost impossible. Okay, so we need to help each other, support each other, listen to others, and also we have to develop a mind of tolerance and acceptance and respect, for each other. Okay, and that way it makes it easier to live more harmoniously. All right. I mean, yeah, within the DAO community itself, I mean, there could be a lot of frictions, right? I mean, so we have to learn, and that's the way to. Once we learn that, we then apply it in our daily lives, right? Within our families, parents, siblings, friends, neighbors, coworkers, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So anyway, there's a lot to go through, but anyway, I already went overboard. So that's it. So the key is we have to maintain constancy in this, you can say sacred journey of cultivation. Okay, because it's not to achieve the ultimate price, the ultimate level. It requires continuous effort. Okay, continuous effort, and not to deviate from that determination, or not to give up. Maybe that's another better term, is not to give up and say, oh, it's too tough. It's too tough, or it's too difficult, or it's too high, for you to achieve. Well, what I can say is, whatever you achieve, you will it will help you to go to the next level. Okay, so that's that's why we should never give up. Okay. All right, I said enough. It's all right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Lecturer Kai. I saw Deborah from Ohio had her hands up earlier. Deborah, do you want to share something with us?
Oh, sure. If you don't mind, one small thing, just to add on what everyone was saying, which was all very powerful to me. But the one thing that came to me too, just additionally, was the idea that for me, myself, I noticed that I just take a lot for granted in my life and my cultivation. So listening to this story really helped me reflect on, really how precious, what I have is right here, and that I really don't want to waste a moment of it. And I do find myself sometimes getting distracted, like some of the lectures and transmitters were saying. It's very important to stay consistent. But the other thing that just really hit me was just the preciousness of what I have, this opportunity, and I just don't want to waste it. And I think this story really made that even more clear to my heart tonight. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.